Good morning. My name is Chris Sullivan, and my pronouns are she, her. I serve on your board of trustees. I'm a petite white woman with short gray hair, and today I'm wearing a blue print shirt with blue slacks, and my shirt has sparkles on it. So, as part of our services here at First UU, our speakers provide brief visual descriptions of ourselves to increase inclusivity and welcome for people with visual impairments and for anyone online. Welcome. If this is your first time here, please stop by the greeter stand out in the gallery for your visitor gift. Use the QR code on the screen to access our order of service online and to let us know you are here. After the service, volunteers will be available in Beach Hall to share some getting to know you information, and whether it's your first time or you've been here since we produced a Mall in the Night Visitor in 1968, please come chat with me or another board member to learn more about who we are and what we believe here at First UU. Come find us in Beach Hall. I'd like to ask everyone to take a moment to silence your cell phones. We have a few announcements this morning. We invite you to join congregational conversations on sustainable funding. These town hall meetings will be held on November 13th online and November 16th, next Saturday morning, here in the sanctuary. Please RSVP in Friday's news. The Anti-Racist Allies Group invites you to join them at another local BIPOC-owned restaurant after worship today. Either meet in the gallery immediately after worship or head to I Can't Believe It's Vegan in Westerville to eat with them at 1:30. The next First UU Concert Series event is next Sunday, November 17th at 4 p.m. Come see Joni Kalem's concert, One Size Never Fits All, Songs of Humor and Heart. There is a BRED non-police crisis response system town hall on November 18th at 7 p.m. Contact Alice Rathburn or another BRED member for more information. And Joe Voltellini has retired as our bookkeeper. We will miss him greatly after his multiple decades of service. If you would like to contribute towards a thank you gift, there is a QR code in the order of service, or you can write a check to First UU Columbus with Gift for Joe in the memo line. See the insert to your order of worship for details about these announcements, this week's events, and more. We encourage you to take it home, and we ask that you leave the cover in the baskets by the back door for us to reuse next week. We invite you to rise in body or in spirit to sing our opening hymn, Oh, I Woke Up This Morning, number 153 in the gray hymnal.
my mind. Stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind. Stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Good morning. I am the Reverend Amanda Hayes, and I serve as your Justice Minister. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a white woman in my mid-30s with short, spiky hair and glasses. We begin this service by acknowledging that we gather on land stolen from the Wyandotte, Miami, Seneca, Erie, Shawnee, Delaware, and Cayuga people, many of whom were forcibly removed from Ohio. We support the Native American Indian Center of Central Ohio in their Land Back NACO campaign, and we know that we have more to do as a community to be in solidarity and true relationship with this land and those indigenous to it, and we're very excited that we will get to hear more about that, an update on the campaign later on in the service.
Good morning. I am Reverend Kelly McNeil. My pronouns are she, her, and I am honored to be a part of this community and serve as your minister of congregational life. I am a white woman in her mid-30s with long purple hair and blue to pink glasses. Sorry, I forgot. Let us enter into the spirit of worship with these opening words that were written by our Unitarian Universalist Association. Today, we pause, we breathe, we hold one another close, and we ask, how will Unitarian Universalism meet this moment? Who are we called to be? And what are our deepest values and commitments compelling us to do as the map of the terrain that lies ahead snaps into focus? Perhaps the greatest gift of belonging to the rooted, dynamic, living tradition of Unitarian Universalism is knowing in our bones that we are both the inheritors of a complex and powerful historical legacy and the stewards of a future yet to be imagined. Today, as it has always been, the unwavering love at the center of our faith is our greatest balm, our strongest shield, and our fiercest power. That animating core of love will both demand our rigorous action and offer us the wellspring of hope and courage that will equip us for that work in the times ahead. Beloveds, we will hold our fear together. We will honor our rage and devastation and grief. We will hold one another ferociously, tenderly, faithfully. And then we will move deliberately. We will invest in trust. We will claim joy, rest, and sustenance. We will resist. We will fight fascism and continue the struggle for democracy. We will focus our efforts and abandon distractions. We will create safe harbor for those in danger. We will leverage our resources. We will sharpen our skills and our analysis. We will act as if no person is disposable. We will refuse the politics of division and despair. We will seek the wisdom of elders and of history. We will weave deeper connections with our neighbors. We will fight for our survival. And we will create the conditions of possibility for our thriving and liberation. Amen. I invite us all now to rise in body or in spirit. While our children meet Amber back in the back to prepare to bring in the light, please turn to your neighbors to introduce yourself.
It is now time for the children to bring in the lights. Good morning. I'm the Reverend Dr. Teresa Cooley. It's my privilege to serve as your developmental minister. My pronouns are she, her. I am a white woman in her early 60s with silver hair and purple stole and purple sweater. Before I read our chalice lighting, I just wanted to say welcome to the Reverend Dr. Eric Dawson, who's joining us this morning. In addition to having grown up in this church, I've known him personally first as a mentor and then as a colleague and friend. I've watched his work unfold with awe, with the creativity and commitment that he possesses. So thank you for being with us. Our chalice lighting comes from Steve Harness Holmes. No, you are not alone. Millions bear your sorrow. Ancestors and even unborn generations walk with you gratefully. Seek others who are tenderhearted. Receive all the grace you can. In the flesh is best, but even in spirit, know that we are here for one another. And in this promise and in this hope, we light our chalice.
Thank you, Annie, for your help lighting our chalice this morning. Good morning. I'm Amber Scott, your Director of Religious Exploration, and my pronouns are she, they. I'm a white femme millennial with chaotic, long, copper-colored hair, and I am wearing a shirt that reads, Black Lives Matter. Today's story is called The Curious Garden, written and illustrated by Peter Brown. There once was a city without gardens or trees or greenery of any kind. Most people spent their time indoors. As you can imagine, it was a very dreary place. However, there was one boy who loved being outside. Even on drizzly days, while everyone else stayed inside, you could always find Liam happily splashing through his neighborhood. It was on one such morning that Liam made several surprising discoveries. He was wandering around the old railway, as he did from time to time, when he stumbled upon a dark stairwell leading up to the tracks. The railway had stopped working ages ago, and since Liam had always wanted to explore the tracks, there was only one thing for the curious boy to do. Liam ran up the stairs, pushed open the door, and stepped out onto the railway. The first thing he saw was a lonely patch of color. Wildflowers and plants were the last things he had expected to find up there, but when he took a closer look, it became clear that the plants were dying. They needed a gardener. Liam may not have been a gardener, but he knew he could help. So he returned to the railway the very next day and got to work. The flowers nearly drowned, and he had a few pruning problems, but the plants patiently waited while Liam found better ways of gardening. As the weeks rolled by, Liam began to feel like a real gardener, and the plants began to feel like a real garden. Most gardens stay in one place, but this was no ordinary garden. With miles of open railway ahead of it, the garden was growing restless. It wanted to explore. The tough little weeds and mosses were the first to move. They popped up farther and farther down the tracks and were closely followed by more delicate plants. Over the next few months, Liam and the curious garden explored every corner of the railway. After spending his spring and summer and autumn with the garden, Liam's time on the railway was finally interrupted by winter. Heavy blankets of snow fell on the city that season, and for the first time since he'd become a gardener, Liam could not visit the plants. Rather than waste his winter worrying about the garden, Liam spent it preparing for spring. After 3 cold months, the snow finally began to melt, and Liam rolled his new gardening gear over to the railway. Winter had taken a toll on the garden, but thanks to Liam's planning, his handy new tools, and a little help from the sun, the plants soon awoke from their winter sleep. The garden had always wanted to explore the rest of the city, and that spring, it was finally ready to make its move. Once again, the tough little weeds and mosses set out first. They popped up farther and farther from the railway and were closely followed by more delicate plants. The garden was especially curious about old, forgotten things. A few plants popped up where they didn't belong. Others mysteriously popped up all at once. But the most surprising things that popped up were the new gardeners. Many years later, the entire city had blossomed. But of all the new gardens, Liam's favorite was where it all began. The end. With collaboration and a little love, the results of our efforts may grow bigger than we could have imagined. Now remain seated with hands over your hearts as we sing number 396 in your gray hymnal, I Know This Rose Will Open, to sing our beloved children back to their families and out to class.
Our Share the Plate recipient for November is the Native American Indian Center of Central Ohio, or NACO. NACO is devoted to preserving and restoring balance in the lives of Native Americans through traditional, cultural, educational, family, community, and wellness-driven values and initiatives. And here with us this morning to share more about NACO is Ty Smith, NACO's project director. Thank you so much for joining us, Ty.
Always wonder how close to get to the mic when I come to a new mic. Nich Maiski, say good morning. Inknash Waniksha, Winch Ilks Kwaltikla. Everybody introducing themselves. My name's Ty Smith. I'm a member of the Confederate Tribes of Warm Springs, Oregon. I'm also the project director here at the Native American Indian Center of Central Ohio, or NACO for short. I just want to say thank you, Kuala, for having me here and allowing me to sit in on the early parts of your ceremony, witnessing the children, and Reverend Amanda reaching out to me. And I was running a little late today too. Traffic, I come up 33 from towards Lancaster area, Baltimore, but they closed it to one lane, and the rain and everything got everyone backed up. And I was thinking, and I didn't make it last week too, so I'm a week late. That's called Indian time in our world. But I'm here, and
We're really happy to have you.
yeah, thank you. And Reverend Amanda reached out to me via email and asked if I'd put something together in writing, and I said, I usually don't try to write anything down, because what I found in the past is I'll be up here and I'll be fidgeting and try to figure it out and read it, and pretty soon I'm just more concentrated on reading what I want to put together. You know, in our native ways, and I speak generally, and I can't speak for all tribes, but what I see a lot of times is that the spirit moves in a certain way, and whatever that was that touched you all in the initiating peoples, and you know, I want to think of the McChrystals and Joel and Tara, and I met Ryan the last time. Is Ryan here? He used to do our mobile book thingamajig during our fresh produce days. He came out afterwards and met me, and I didn't know he was here. But the people that helped initiate this, and the idea of sharing the plate and the spirit of generosity, it's very moving. And you know, I came here and I was thinking, what do I explain, or how do I talk about Land Back NACO? And I could imagine you guys maybe have looked into it somewhat. You can, you know, I'll be here afterwards too. We can visit more if anybody wants to dive deep. But it's on the website, and in short, just the bullet points of it is we started a campaign, and it was all about place and finding a home here in Ohio for a lot of our Native people who come from all different parts of the country, who pretty much 99.9% of us are not from here. And so, like myself, I'm from Oregon, Southwest, Midwest, Oklahoma, even Canada, some people, First Nations people. But anyway, we intended to, it was very black and white in its origin. We thought, we're going to raise some money, and we're going to buy some land, and we're going to have a place. But a lot has changed since initiating this, which started really just pre-COVID, and COVID really kind of shut it down for a while, to be honest. But we're almost nearing 400K, and that is just blowing our minds. We're like super excited, way humbled. Here you guys are lifting us up, So to you guys, the shout out, and I want to lift you guys up for being the people that you are. And a lot of people ask, well, where's this going and what is this? And at first we thought it was going to be this concept of the bigger, better NACO. We would sell the building that we have, we would transition into this whole new place. But as time has evolved, it's funny, you look at, again, how the Spirit moves sometimes, and the curious garden is very telling to the path that we're on. And we're intending to buy land, and it's about rewilding. It's about being conservationists, environmentalists. It's about finding a way to give back and to help Mother Nature. And as the original indigenous peoples of these areas, we feel it's in our DNA. It's who we are. It's innate to our existence. And so anyway, our idea is to be as the planting of the garden and to flourish, and that's what we intend to do. And that's the land and the space that we have to that we're seeking to acquire. And I think the more telling thing too in this is how to interact. And for us, often today, and I don't want to get too far into this. I know there's a limited amount of time I can be up here, but we hear a lot about historical intergenerational trauma and the impacts of that and how it's played forward over the generations. And we've seen it firsthand. We're not shy to it. We know exactly where it is and what it looks like, been through it, part of it. It's who we are. But there's a part to us too that is about being resilient and moving forward. But the connection piece for us comes back to just the same way you come here to get grounded in your home, your church. Ours is Mother Nature and always has been. And so we want to create that space here in Ohio. And so awakening the inner native in our people is really what our initiative is about, and having that space where they can go to do that and to be themselves. And so just like, I think was it Liam in the story? Was that his name? Liam? But we're here to plant those seeds, and hopefully generations past this, there's something beautiful that has transpired, and guess what? You guys will have been a part of that story too. So thank you again, kola to all of you, and, much appreciation.
All right. You may give by dropping a donation in the basket or by donating on our webpage. You can get there by scanning the QR code on the screen. And please be sure to select Share the Plate in the drop-down menu. Thank you.
We have a few joys and concerns to share with you this morning. Congratulations to Desmond Ducey and Liam Davidson, who were selected to participate in the All-Ohio Thespians show entitled John Proctor is the Villain. And John Proctor was the villain, I will just say. The show will be performed at the state conference this spring, and over 60 students from all over the state auditioned for one of 26 spots. Desmond will be on the run crew, and Liam is the assistant set designer. Congratulations to both. And congratulations to Heidi Ballard. Heidi, are you here this morning? I don't see you. Who was elected 2025 president of the Association for Humanist Sociology. Founded in 1976, humanist sociologists strive as scholars and as activists to uncover and address social issues to advance social justice, peace, and equality. A 27-year AHS member, Heidi will preside over the 49th annual conference planned for October 2025 here in Columbus. Congratulations, Heidi. Happy birthday to Paul LaRue, who celebrated his 87th birthday on Friday. Congratulations. Is Paul here this morning? Yes. And we offer our deep sympathy to Kim Radersdorf. Her mother, Carol Radersdorf, died peacefully on Monday morning, November 4th at Westminster Thurber. Carol was 96 years old. Cremation was November 6th, and on November 23rd, there will be a funeral mass at St. Francis Catholic Church in Victorian Village. I know for me that when I feel despair, the most helpful thing I can do is to do something for others. And so one of the things that we do each month is ask you to take one of those green read and feed bags. I think they're by the greeter desk this morning. And there's a list in your order of service. This month, we're trying to gather hygiene items for people that really cannot afford these very necessary things. And Jacques Angelino helps distribute these things to any number of people who are in desperate need. So thank you for doing that. Take a bag with you, bring it back next time you come, and thank you very much for your generosity in doing that. So please join me in the spirit of prayer, of meditation. We bring our hearts and hopes to this moment of sadness. As I share these words from J. Drew Lanham. To walk in a mad world, but not be mad. To not imagine how it happened, but know the all too painful why. To mourn hope's demise, but revive it from deep within. To weaken at the knees, but stand strong in our belief. To feel broken, but somehow to begin the repair. To have justice denied, but know that it must come of my own making. To be empty, but not full of hate. To know despair, but make short that relationship. To have worth demeaned, but know my worth's meaning. To have no words, but find something worthy to say. To have confusion be the choice, but see my own way clear. To be bitter, but find sweetness in kindred hugs. To have the game cheated away, but my life's practice soundly played. To wallow in misery, but wash clean in worthy mission. To be lost, but keep the bearing home in heart's map. To have that heaviness weigh 2 tons, but to find lightness, knowing I am not alone. To lose trust in so-called friends and neighbors, but to find faith in those who mindfully close. I want better in some tomorrow to come, someday beyond this day, whatever that time may come. These are my pleas, my promises to myself, my solemn prayer. To whatever God or gods might be listening, on this dark morning. Amen.
Good morning. My name is Dick Dawson. I'm an old white man, and I'm old enough to claim to be old. I'm short in stature. I have white hair. I'm wearing glasses. I have a small beard, and I've got a red shirt with a brown vest on. My pronouns are he and him, and maybe more importantly, I'm the father of the guy who's going to preach to you in a few minutes. And I'm very happy he chose this reading from Reinhold Niebuhr. It's one of my favorite Reinhold Niebuhr readings, so let me do that. Nothing that is worth doing can be achieved in our lifetime. Therefore, we must be saved by hope. Nothing which is true or beautiful or makes complete sense in any immediate context of history. Therefore, we must be saved by faith. Nothing we do, however virtuous, can be accomplished alone. Therefore, we must be saved by love. No virtuous act is quite as virtuous from the standpoint of our friend or foe as it is from our standpoint. Therefore, we must be saved by that final form of love, which is forgiveness.
Please remain seated as we sing our meditative hymn number 1009 in your teal hymnal, Meditation on Breathing.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Eric Dawson, your guest preacher, white middle-aged man with graying beard. I like to call it my wisdom beard. Dark blue shirt and a stole that was made for me by my ordaining congregation that is filled with fabric that they collected on my ordination day. So, how was your week? Restful, uneventful. You know, you start planning a sermon a few weeks out and you feel really clear about the message, and then the world has other plans. So I'm not sure if this sermon is about doubt and failure or hope and possibility. Like many of you, I'm sitting in liminal space. When I was in seminary, that was the word everyone liked talking about, liminal. Everything was liminal, right? Everything is this in-between space of not quite being in one spot or another, between hope and despair, possibility and despondency. I've spent my life in liminal spaces. I got my start teaching peacemaking skills to young kids in Boston. And every week I would go in and I'd teach a skill: cooperation, communication, conflict resolution. And I left being unsure if what I did made any difference at all. I remember a group of third graders I was teaching, and the third grade curriculum focused on the ABCD method of problem solving. You would ask what the problem is, you would brainstorm solutions, you would choose the best one, and then you would do it. And there was this kid, Sammy, who was always in the back, and Sammy was this incredibly sweet 8-year-old, and he was always 2 or 3 steps behind everybody else. And their homework was to use the ABCD method at home and come back and share what they had done. And so we went in and I asked the students to share how they had used this method, and Sammy's hand shot up. First time ever. And so I said, "Sammy, tell me what you did." And he was like, "Right? My sister, she won't shut up." And I don't like that word, so I gave him my teacher eyes. You know what I'm talking about. So he changed courses and he said, "Okay, right, my sister, she won't stop talking. And so I think I'm gonna use the ABCD method, right? So A, I ask, what is the problem? My sister won't stop talking. And so B, I brainstorm. What's the best way to tape her mouth shut?" There's duct tape, there's scotch tape, there's masking tape, there's the stapler. And so then, see, I chose duct tape because it sticks the best. And then I did it. And he was so proud of himself, like he'd finally nailed it. And so I said, Sammy, how did your sister feel about this problem-solving strategy? She did not like it at all. How do we know if what we do makes a difference? There was a special education combined kindergarten, first grade class I was teaching, and there's this little girl, Annie, who had a really hard time verbalizing when she was upset. And one day her mother, who was visiting the school, came up to me and said, Eric, you'll never guess what happened. So apparently Annie would get annoyed at her brother and she would just start hitting him as fast as she could. And the first grade curriculum, we talk about our feelings. And she said, Eric, for the first time, Annie turned to her brother and said, I'm really mad when you do that. And then she started hitting him. So every day I would sit with this question, am I making a difference? So that work that started teaching young kids grew into a sort of digital program that helped young people all over the world solve problems. So I've spent my life helping young people change the world, from tackling clean drinking water in rural Egypt to police violence in Baltimore to employability in rural Colombia. I've had the privilege of helping thousands and thousands of young people change the world with their beliefs, their values, and their visions. 30 years I ran this organization, and as I was preparing to leave, I remember sitting in my living room writing my goodbye letter. And I just started sobbing. And not like what I call cool man tears, where you look off in the distance and reflect on something, like snot, just this deep feeling of despair, because I couldn't answer the question, did those past 30 years of my life make a difference? And every week I could keep working in this job was a chance for redemption. But in leaving, the bill was due. Did that work, in fact, make a difference? A few years back, I was speaking at a conference, and a young woman came up to me afterwards and asked me how I knew that the work I was doing supporting young change makers was effective. And I did what I always do in those moments, is I listed statistics. I talked about evaluation outcomes, I talked about changed lives, and she interrupted me and she said, no, how do you know if you've really made a difference? She wasn't looking for statistics, she was looking for meaning. How do we know if what we do really makes a difference? If it really matters? This is a question not of the mind, but of the heart, of the spirit, and is one I want us to sit with together this particular Sunday. The commitments that we engage in are not always going to be easy. We are called to create a more just world, to listen with care and with patience, to build worlds that are not yet imagined. And so what does it mean to do this work where we never truly know the total results of our efforts? How do we sustain ourselves when the true long-term impact of our efforts are impossible to know in the moment? Billy Shore founded an organization called Share Our Strength and No Kid Hungry. It's one of the world's largest anti-hunger organizations. And he offers what I think is a useful metaphor to answer this question through the stories of building the great cathedrals of Europe. Many of these cathedrals were started in the 14th and 15th centuries and would take hundreds of years to complete. Entire communities would come together to contribute to their construction, even though very, very few of them would live to see their completion. Standing in the great Duomo de Milano, the great cathedral of Milan, he writes, "Cathedrals of this magnificence cannot be built without people believing in it so deeply and so truly that their belief becomes contagious. He writes, it had to have taken more than salesmanship and communication skills to convince citizens across 5 centuries to bring the vision of this cathedral to fruition. The vast majority of those working on this and every other cathedral did so knowing they would not live to see their final finished achievement. This didn't diminish their dedication or craftsmanship. The evidence suggests it enhanced it. I mean, think about this. I mean, really think about this for a moment. People gave their lives to build a building that their great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren would not live to see its completion. He goes on to say, somehow it had been both communicated and understood that it wasn't just that building a truly great cathedral would require everyone to share their strength, but rather that everyone sharing their strength would result in a truly great cathedral. Think of all that went into building a cathedral, he writes. Muscle, surely. Ingenuity, vision, will. Layer upon layer of knowledge. And so it surrounds us like an enormous gift that we can never repay. A gift not of architecture, but of humanity. He writes, this is what we're feeling. This is what catches our breath. We become custodians of a bond between ourselves and the people who shared and sacrificed for our pleasure and benefit. That is what touches and transforms us. Those great cathedrals were built because people had faith in something that was far greater than they could ever imagine. So imagine you're a 14th century bricklayer. You work your entire life adding a few more feet in a wall of a building that you will never see completed. What does it matter? If you've had the great fortune to see the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris, you know why it matters. If you've set foot inside a library, or taken antibiotics, or driven over a bridge that someone built with care, you know why it matters. If you've seen the bison of Yellowstone, or the red maples in High Banks, you know why it matters. If you've had a student come back years later and tell you that you inspired their love of art, their love of writing or learning that fueled her success, you know why it matters. If you've witnessed your children have children, are spoken in that beautiful shorthand of long-lived friendship, you know why it matters. Look, I know many of us sitting here today have a real sense of despair about our world, about our country, about our state, about our neighbors. That weight of the world can feel too much to bear. But this is our work, building those cathedrals that will never be completed in our lifetimes, to plant January seeds believing in the possibilities of August harvests, to create across time this transference of love between generations. We must hold on to the underlying promise that at the end of the day, our simple individual actions will join with those of others to build a thing of beauty that we will never get to see. The conviction that there are greater and better and more beautiful things for which we are merely a bricklayer, a sweeper, a carrier of water. That our efforts will join with others to build something truly beautiful and lasting. And as it is for the world, so it is for a spiritual home like ours. We too, as Unitarian Universalists, are inheritors of our ancestors' courage and convictions. radical theologians who offered a model of God that was rooted in love and not fear, or democratic polity that placed power in the hands of a congregation, not some bishop, and that we could be bound by a shared commitment of concern and love rather than creeds. This congregation was built by the daily acts of people across generations who raised the funds, who made the coffee, who led the RE classes, who planned the meetings, who called this community into being with their care and their love and their resources. A congregation that has raised tens of thousands of children in a loving community, that has brought casseroles and cards and offered rides to those in need. A congregation that is responsible for the minister that is standing before you. It was in RE classes down the hall at First U Columbus that my curiosity of religious life was sparked. It was through a youth group that I helped start that I made lifelong friends and encountered adults who were interested in what I had to say. As a 14-year-old, I led a conga line in a same-sex wedding in that hall, recognizing love decades before the Supreme Court would. It was through OWL that I developed a healthy and loving understanding of my body and the body of other people. This is the congregation that as a teenager put me on a committee to hire an associate minister, that cared what I had to say, that took me seriously. It was religious leaders like Teresa and Mark that first affirmed my calling to ministry before I knew it myself. Bricks of my own life carefully laid down and cared for by this loving and caring community. The beloved community exists only because we as individuals call it into being. And it will not be easy to sustain our sense of commitment, our sense of community during times of struggle. And this congregation has struggled in the ways that all congregations do. And yet we come back, don't we? Because success, if it comes, will never look like we think it will. I was about 10 years old when I baked my first cake. We had that red Betty Crocker cookbook. Maybe some of you had it in your homes. Are there any bakers in here? Just a show of hands. Okay, the story I'm about to tell you will terrify you. So consider this my trigger warning. Take a deep breath. This is a baking disaster. I was dead set on making the Betty Crocker triple layer chocolate cake. The full color picture on one side, the directions on the other. And I tell you, I did everything right. I followed every ingredient. I mixed it in order. I sifted flour, which I don't really buy you have to do, but I sifted flour. I mixed it all in just as you're supposed to. I poured it into the 3 different size cakes. I preheated the oven. I put the cakes in. I set the timer. I made that ooey gooey chocolate fudge, icing, frosting. Ding, the timer went out. I took out my 3 cakes. I carefully took them out. I put them one on top of the other, and then I took that ooey gooey chocolate frosting and I put it on. And I remember taking a step back and looking at the beautiful red, full color Betty Crocker cookbook picture and looking at my cake, and they look nothing alike. You see, I didn't realize when you cook 3 different size cakes, you need to cook them for different amounts of time. And so the bottom layer was like this swamp of chocolate, and the top was this like charred piece of chocolate. It was like the Titanic. And I didn't realize that you're supposed to let a cake cool before you frost it. And so that all that ooey chewy, like it just like a puddle of chocolate. But I will tell you this, that was and is the best cake I have ever eaten in my life. because I made it with my own hands. I brought it into being. I created it. My church family, in these moments, we must lean on one another to find the meaning that exists within. One of my favorite authors, Anne Lamott, in her book Traveling Mercies, has this passage. She writes, "I always imagined when I was a kid that adults had some kind of inner toolbox full of shiny tools, the saw of discernment, the hammer of wisdom, the sandpaper of patience. But then I grew up, and I found that life handed you these rusty, bent old tools, friendship, prayer, conscience, honesty, and said, do the best you can with these, they will have to do. And mostly against all odds, they are enough." I want you to take a moment and look around at the faces in this room. I mean, really, turn around and look at the faces in this room. Look at these humans who are in this journey with you, their experiences, their hopes, their struggles. I cannot tell you that everything will be okay. That is a lie that parents tell children because we don't trust them with the truth. The truth is that we don't know. The builders of the world's great cathedrals didn't know either. What I do know is that there is not a better group of humans to build a world worthy of my children than you all. Thank you. Please rise in body or in spirit. Thank you. And join us in hymn 121, We'll Build a Land. Remain standing and join hands if you may. In The Plague, his wonderful treatise on oppression and hope, Camus writes of people who, while unable to be saints, but refusing to bow down to pestilences, strive their utmost to be healers. Let that be us. Let us honor our flawed humanity and never give up. Let us heal the world together. And now let us extinguish our chalice together. Do I read this? Yes. Oh. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of vision. As we go forth, let us heal and transform ourselves and our world through reason and